how's it going? So today is the Tuesday live stream and just getting things shuffled around here. So no questions in the discussions, but kind of the key question that's on my ISCI integrated science class is with their final. So for this class, I'm not doing a normal final. I'm having them do an infographic on some topic that we have done in the class. I actually touched on this in the last live stream. I wanted to go a little bit more in detail, as I know this is definitely a point of questions that some of them are going to have, or like all of them are going to have. So I figured today I would go ahead and I would actually pull up some random infographics over stuff that we didn't cover. So these are all kind of agriculture photosynthesis based sort of. I Googled infographics photosynthesis. Google had some diverse opinions on what was there, but we got some good ones. And just kind of look at these guys and kind of review them, and kind of my thoughts on an infographic. I'm not really going to try and grade them since we didn't cover the topic. But I'm going to jump into a few of these. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, well, at least Firefox. So now you've got, here's the first one. And so this is an infographic on greenamerica.org. I don't know anything about this organization. But okay, so they're restoring farmland, of some sort. Okay, so this one is very heavily reliant on the text. So if I look at this, I know it has something to do, just with looking at the pictures, I know it has something to do with agriculture. I can pretty much guess if I look over here in kind of the top part where there's that image of the plant and the carbon dioxide and the carbon, that pretty much tells me we're talking about carbon sequestration or sequestration. Terrible at pronouncing some of these words. And then that's it without looking, without reading it. And so then I can start looking at this one, and I can see, several of the styles they're using. So this is going to be what looks like somewhat more organic based, not necessarily organic based farming, but, styles used of it. More of an older style farming. So, we're talking about composting, cover crops, that kind of stuff, which are all very old styles, but also very new styles of planting. Okay. Yeah, basically I have to go through and read this one. So if I was looking at this one, honestly, it looks pretty, but this would not receive that high marks from me. Because one, there's no real flow. I don't quite know where I'm going for this. I mean, there definitely appears to be this flow here, but I don't know. Everything just feels kind of like tacked on. And the graphics, except for this one picture of the plant and the CO2 and the carbon, everything just feels like it's decorative. I mean, I guess, yeah, no, it just all feels decorative. So overall, I'm not a huge fan of this infographic. It's just, they could have done so much more with this. So let's go on to another one. And this one is still very text heavy. So this is, southwestgreenhouses.uk.com or .co.uk. So I guess these guys are selling greenhouses. So this is very text heavy, but I actually get a much better feeling for what's going on. So we actually get a nice graphic. Nice. I mean, it's an okay graphic. We got kind of some decorative stuff towards the top. They got the company logo, and then a very basic overview of what on earth a greenhouse is supposed to be doing. So I get the idea that it's trapping the heat from the sun to make a nice warm greenhouse. And of course, especially if you're in the United Kingdom, it can get cold up there. So maybe you want a nice greenhouse. Okay. So this is setting up your greenhouse. And so this is a nice flow. I like the motif. We've got this kind of plant motif. I like that. That's nice. And we're basically going down the list, and the leaves are numbered. And it's pretty obvious. You start with leaf 1, you just work your way down, and bada boom, bada bang, you've got your greenhouse, or more accurately, you've ordered your greenhouse from them, I think. But okay, so let's kind of look at this one. The first one, the compass. I mean, it's a very generic one. That doesn't really tell me much. Now, I honestly would have been really careful. I would not have picked that compass, because if you read the text, it's talking about picking the orientation of your greenhouse. Okay, that makes sense with the compass, but it specifically basically says either do a north, south, or east, west axes. That compass is not pointing at either of those. It's what a northeast versus a southwest axes or something like that. I mean, no. So I would have gone ahead. I would have done 2 compasses here, or maybe even like 2 pictures of a greenhouse. One of them on a north-south, one of them north-south, one of them on a east-west axis, and then a compass that actually showed, where north was pointing. So it really showed that your greenhouse was pointing on those 2 axes. At least that's what I think is going on. Now, the next leaf, this graphic, I actually really like. So in this case, you've got a couple of different styles of greenhouse. And so they're saying pick your style of greenhouse. And so you actually have pictures of I assume these are pictures of the different styles of greenhouse. I don't know anything about greenhouses other than just the basics. But now this gives me some information. Okay, I have no idea, like if I'm just looking at the pictures, like, okay, this one makes a lot of sense. I'm picking my style of greenhouse. Then choose the foundation. I really would like to see pictures of foundation choices. So once again, this is at least telling me it's a foundation. So they're definitely helping with that. But I would really like to see, a picture with my choices of foundations. Because I don't really know. Different foundations. Okay. This one's probably okay. I mean, I guess it's just, a symbol of your frame. I don't know if there's different ways that the frame would look. But I might have done a couple of more of these. And so I guess to me, I wouldn't have made this quite so narrow. I would have made this a wider one and then used the extra space for more images. Covering or gauzing, once again, I really would have liked a couple more pictures. Once again, this kind of implies what's going on, but I would really like to, to a little flush that out. Once again, I mean, this is the second one on the list. The pictures really do tell the story. They tell the beginnings of the story, but the text really flushes it out completely. The pictures are really kind of just placeholders. They give a pairing to the title. So I would definitely want to flush these out more and give more pictures, not necessarily less text. I might keep every word of text if I was redoing this. I want to do this myself. But apart from this one picture of the different greenhouses, I would really would have liked to have flushed out all of the pictures so that the pictures tell more of the story. Okay, so now we've got one on photosynthesis. This one actually made a lot of sense that this popped up. And so in this case, this is National Geographic. It's actually talking about photosynthesis in the plant. Sorry, I keep yawning. Okay, so I've got a lot more information in the pictures. So I've got, cross-section of the leaf. I've got a picture of the cell. I've got the chlorophyll, or the chloroplast. So it's really kind of narrowing me down as I go down. But I'm seeing where in the leaf that this is taking place. I've got the mesophyll cell. I've seen multiple mesophyll cells. They're highlighted. They look very similar to this one. So this looks great. So this is really giving me an idea, and the text really kind of complements these and clarifies what those images really are telling me. Same kind of over here. The text is supporting the image. Last few times, the text was the dominant. The image kind of supported it. In this case, the text is really supporting the image. So this one I really, really like. Once again, we got ourselves a chloroplast. I love this kind of trend. We got the whole plant. We got the leaf. I would have been tempted to try and move that up, that down, but that probably would have ended up badly. So they probably did, best choice. And you kind of have this flow going smaller and smaller. I like the pairings kind of over here. You got the water coming in, you got the oxygen going out, you got the glucose. So yeah. And then once again, this is kind of really highlighting, and then we get even smaller. This is going into more detail too. So not every, not even really. I mean, in many respects, this is really explaining the image. So in many cases, this one, I really like this one. And then we even go smaller to the actual chemical reaction. So yeah, I mean, what else am I going to say? This is a really nice, I mean, it's from National Geographic. They do good work. um, so, I mean, what can I say? This one's really good. Now, of course, I would never expect my students to have this level of artistry. I mean, this was a professional artist, you know, lots of time. I don't expect my students to spend this much time or this much effort on theirs. Now, this one is from NOAA. This one's a little smaller. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit on it. So this is acidification or oceans. Right off the bat, I actually can tell what's going on from the images. These are much simpler images. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's a stock image of that fish. I'm pretty sure I've seen that fish before. And even if you didn't want to, you know, if you wanted a simpler fish, that'd be fine. I mean, look how simple these corals are. That is really just kind of the line tool. Especially kind of the center ones. This is doing a little bit of artwork using kind of the shape tools in whatever program you're using. I mean, look at the house. That's just a square with some, you know, these are shapes layered on top of this. I could totally do this in PowerPoint. This was probably not done in PowerPoint. I'm quite certain it's not. This was almost certainly done in either Adobe Illustrator, like an Inkscape maybe. I could totally do this in Inkscape. The only thing that would give me any challenge would probably be the little food stand down here. So very simple shapes, but it's still effective. And so I see, okay, I've got runoff from watering yards or other areas. I've got runoff going off there. I've got pollution, specifically carbon dioxide coming from factories. The text is kind of explaining what's going on, but honestly, I don't think I need to read it. And I love the kind of the two sides, the arrow going through. I might have done something a little different with the arrow. By the way, that's like a standard feature in most programs. And you've got the smaller fish. I've got less fish. I've got less coral, smaller coral compared to the water before it got contaminated. I might have moved the factory over here because right now this looks like the factory side and that looks like the water side. But I mean, that's a minor detail. And then what we can do to help, you know, it's fairly simple images. You know, I'm thinking, okay, watering our lawn, cutting back. I might have done something a little different, but yeah, it's fine. You know, the fertilizer, you know, eating the plant-rich diet. That's actually one of my favorite ones. Just because that image really says plant-rich diet. These images looks like water more and fertilize more, which is the exact opposite. And then the energy efficient, appliances. So this really, you know, I don't need to read this. I can look and get it, but I can read it. I can definitely, get a lot more information from the text. And honestly, I would almost want more text on this one. Just, you know, a little bit flush out the details with the text. They could go for more. This is not that busy. So a little more text wouldn't hurt on this one, honestly, but it's not bad. And the art style, and pick your art style to make it work with your abilities. Don't try and do photorealism if you're not going to be able to do photorealism. It's not worth the effort, I assure you. But the very simple art style, this is going to allow you to not spend that much ideas or that much energy trying to do this, but still express your ideas in a nice, clean, clear-cut way. So this is really nice. I really kind of like that one. So I'm going to go ahead and back, and I'll switch back to my normal camera. And I'll check out the chat. So as always, feel free to chuck any questions or comments you have in the chat. But yeah, so when I'm looking at those infographics, definitely really like those, especially the last two, which of course, you know, National Geographic, they do good work. If I'm setting up to build the infographic, obviously, I'm probably going to make my final product with a computer, whatever software I would want. Maybe a PowerPoint. I would personally use Inkscape. Inkscape's a free open source vector graphic illustrating software. If you have never used it, don't try and do a learning curve on this one. It took me probably 8 to 10 hours worth of kind of video, etc., you know, watching on YouTube to learn how to use it. I use it a modest amount, more so than I ever thought I would. but like graphics and lab books and whatnot, I definitely use it for. So it's a nice skill to have. That said, if you're just using it this one time, it's not worth it. PowerPoint, you can do a lot of that in PowerPoint. It comes out a little bit cumbersome, but you can still work it. Publisher, if you've got it. I have Publisher. I might be tempted to do that, but Publisher's not free. Actually, what might be a really good choice would be OpenOffice's drawing program. That might be a nice blend because it's not quite as hard to use as Inkscape, but I think I've got the feeling it's a little bit more powerful than trying to use PowerPoint for this, or Impress. I think it is the OpenOffice version of PowerPoint. So this will give you some, useful tools to do that. So what I would do is that would be my final workup once I had my text all typed up and then my infographics. So I would probably draw out just really freehand on a piece of paper a rough draft of this, and then it's like, okay, here's what it's going to look like. Here's my text box. Here's my text box. Here's what goes in text box number 1. Here's what goes in text box number 2. Maybe vary up the font some. So, kind of like that one with the greenhouse, how it had headings in one font and then the smaller font was kind of the flushing out. Might be a great idea, especially since this infographic, the goal is to take the idea and express it on several different levels. Well, if you're expressing to, children, young children, older children, and, adults, well, good and well the adults can read, so you can put that in the text. The older children can read, we're talking probably junior high or something, you can, those kids can read just fine, but maybe put that in like the larger text, and then the images for the really little kids, to kind of flush out the ideas. And so that way you're kind of doing it at multiple levels. You're kind of, sorting things by, font size kind of thing and the amount of text. The other thing I would definitely encourage anyone to do with, and this is whenever you're making, anything for other people's consumption, don't talk down to them. Even if it's going to be little kids, don't talk down to them. So, don't do something like, well, this is what we call, like this is this, kind of thing. It just works better, and, it's much more respectful. It makes generally a better product and something that works well on multiple levels. Because, if you read The Lord of the Rings or The Chronicles of Narnia, Tolkien or Lewis doesn't talk down to anyone, even though those are both children's books, but they're beloved by adults as well. Okay, so that's basically it. Not seeing too much going on in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead, call it a night. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope that gave you some feedback or some ideas of where to take a infographic. So otherwise, have a wonderful day. And if you're one of my students, I will see you maybe later this week, or maybe you're heading off on Thanksgiving break. I will probably do one more live stream, maybe two. So maybe the week of Thanksgiving, maybe the week after. Not for sure how that's going to work. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.